If you're sitting in a car, there's a small mirror in front of you. You can look in it to see if your face looks tense. And if it does, you should relax and smile. Every time we hear a bell, we stop talking and stop thinking. We pay attention to our inhalation. We breathe in gently, so we can feel relaxed when we inhale. A person who knows how to practice feels very relaxed when they inhale. The same goes for exhaling. They feel very relaxed. But someone who doesn't know how to practice seems to breathe in laboriously with great effort. So we have to practice stopping our thoughts every time we hear a bell. Stop thinking, stop talking, pay attention to your breath, and breathe in gently, softly, and comfortably. Then when you exhale, smile and relax, releasing the tension, relaxing your body. This is an exercise taught by the Buddha, the world-honored one. In the sutra, it's called the Anapanasati Sutra. The third exercise is breathing in, being aware of my form. So, when we breathe in, we remember that we have a form. When we breathe in, we breathe for 3 or 4 seconds, or sometimes 5 seconds. And if we know how to breathe, those 3 or 4 seconds are very happy. And in those 3 or 4 seconds, we realize that we have a form, we have a body. If you work with a computer for 3 hours, then during those 3 hours, you completely forget that you have a form. And when the mind and the body are separated, then we are not truly living. Therefore, the monks and nuns set a bell sound on their computers. And every 15 minutes, when they hear the bell, they stop working. And they return to their breath, breathing in gently. And when they breathe in so gently, they bring their mind back to their body. And they know that they have a form. Having a form is very precious. Eventually, we will all die and no longer have this form. Right now, we have this form. I breathe in, and I know that I have a form. And at that moment, the body and mind reunite. When the body and mind reunite, we are truly present, truly, here and now. When we are truly present, we know what is happening in our body, in our feelings, and in our circumstances. We see the blue sky and white clouds, birds singing, pines whispering, flowers blooming, the wonders of life. If we don't return to the present moment, how can we connect with these wonders of life? In our daily lives, we often lose ourselves in the past or lose ourselves worrying about the future. So we're usually not present in the moment, present. And therefore, the scriptures teach that if we breathe and we breathe, we know that we are breathing. Then we bring our mind back to our form of ourselves. And in just 3 or 4 seconds, the body and mind return to each other. And we are present in the moment. And we connect with the wonders of life that are present in this moment. And connect with the fresh, healthy elements that offer nourishment. Only then can we nourish our body and mind. The past is gone, and the future hasn't arrived yet. And if our mind keeps wandering to the past or to the future, then our mind is not present in the moment with the body. And therefore, we are not truly living our lives. And 35, 55, 75 will pass by very quickly. And when we're about to die, we say, it seems like we haven't truly lived, never really lived deeply. Therefore, this breathing method taught by the Buddha is to bring the mind back to the body and be present in the current moment, to live deeply every moment of daily life. Otherwise, a day of 24 hours passes by in a flash, and it's a waste if we don't truly live. And when we lie down and are about to die, we clearly see that throughout our 75 or 85 years of life, we haven't lived deeply in the moments of our daily lives. It's such a waste. And when we return to our bodies, we can see that it seems that in our physical form there is tension, there is pain. Because we've worked too much, we've somewhat tortured our physical form, and therefore we've accumulated tension, quite a bit of tension in our bodies. And that tension, when high, causes many illnesses. Therefore, Buddha taught us another exercise, the fourth exercise. The third exercise is breathing in, I know that I have a physical form. The fourth exercise is breathing in and breathing out, I release the tension in my physical form. If you have studied the Anapanasati Sutta, you know that the first 4 exercises are to take care of our body, our physical form. The first exercise is breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. It's that simple. But when we focus on our breath, in and out, what happens? We let go of the past. We let go of the future. We let go of worries, sorrows, because our mind is paying attention, is focused on the breath. And while we breathe in and out, we feel joy, peace, silence, and soothe your body. The first exercise is breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. The second exercise is breathing in, I follow my breath from beginning to end. Meaning my mind isn't thinking about anything else, just focusing on my breath. And while breathing in like that, you can feel a sense of enjoyment, a sense of lightness and peace. And when you breathe out, you follow your breath from beginning to end. That's the second exercise. The third exercise is a breathing in, I know that I have a body, and I smile to my body. The fourth exercise is breathing in, I release, I relax. I release the tension in my body. Those are the first 4 breathing exercises. Sitting on the bus, instead of thinking about this and that, practice these breathing exercises. Those 4 exercises will calm your body. Release the tension, the stress in your body. If there's a lot of tension in your body, you're easily angered, easily saddened, easily frightened, easily despairing. Therefore, a Buddhist must know how to follow the words of their teacher, meaning the Buddha, which is to learn to breathe and release the tension in your body. Whether you're sitting on a bus or driving a car, or sitting and picking vegetables, or standing and cooking, don't let the tension take over. You must be relaxed. You must be calm. You must let go. When you park your car in the parking lot and walk to your workplace, how do you walk? With each step you take, you can release the tension in your body. That's what I do every time. When I don't walk, I don't walk. When I do, I take each step with ease. Keep it light. And each step is about releasing tension. So we can learn to do that, like when we leave work and walk to the parking lot. How can we walk with ease in each step? Each step helps us release tension. Walk with ease, like a great bodhisattva, like a Buddha. If you visit Plum Village Monastery, you'll see that everyone, monastics and lay people, all learn to walk like that, not rushing, not running like demons are chasing you, but step by step. gently with ease, each step releasing tension, walking in that state. So try it this afternoon or tomorrow. From the parking lot to your workplace, how can you walk without rushing? How can you walk with ease? So that each step can release the tension in your body. That's the exercise. Third and fourth, regarding mindful breathing. And at the temple, whenever we hear the bell, we know that the bell reminds us to return to the present moment, to bring our mind back to our body. And when we hear the bell, we breathe in and say, I listen, I listen, I listen, I listen, I listen, I listen, I listen. And when we breathe out, we say, silently, wonderful bell, I'm coming home. Our home is now and here. Dear audience, in our daily lives we have many worries. We have concerns, like how to find a job, how to have a house, a car, and enough income to send our children to school, how to avoid getting sick. Those are the daily concerns. Daily concerns, and those daily concerns can take up all of our time. It doesn't give us time to cultivate our minds and study. We're too busy working, worrying about income and expenses, concerned with material comforts. It can take up all of our time. Our children are still young, so they don't need to worry. But as parents, we have to worry. The daily concerns of daily consumption, and perhaps those daily concerns, seeking material comforts, take up so much time that we don't have the opportunity to realize our deepest aspirations. Besides that, we also seek comforts, conveniences. Besides material comforts, we also seek emotional comforts. As humans, we really need affection, we really need love. But if we have difficulty communicating with our husband or wife or our children, can we be happy? If a husband and wife can't talk to each other, or a father and son can't talk to each other, we suffer. We lack emotional comfort. And if we're not happy in our family, we go looking for emotional comfort outside the family. We get involved with this person, and that person making our family life more and more difficult, more and more troubled. And therefore the pursuit of material comforts and emotional comforts fills our whole world. Isn't it unreasonable that a life is only spent seeking material and emotional comforts? Is that all there is? Don't we want to do something with our lives? With this life, don't we want to fulfill some aspiration? Do you ever take the time to sit down and ask, what is my deepest desire? Something deeper and more sublime than just making a living and seeking material and emotional comforts. No. That's called ultimate concern, an automobile Quan San. Have you ever had the chance to sit with your father and talk to him? Dad, in your life, is there a dream you want to fulfill that you haven't been able to achieve and you want me to do it for you? Have you had that opportunity yet? Because if we just keep seeking comforts, material possessions, and emotional comforts, then when will we have the time to think about those ultimate concerns? Have you ever sat down with your father, just the two of you, and talked about things like that? Or do you only talk about money and comforts? Dad, in your life, what deep dream haven't you been able to achieve? And do you want your children to do it for you? And talking about things like that means we've gone beyond the cycle of material comforts and emotional comforts. And the two of you can talk to each other, can talk about the deepest dreams of a person's life. Have you ever sat down with your mother to talk like that? Our mothers are busy all their lives worrying about their husbands and children. Surely our mothers, from when they were young, must have had a dream of their own. It doesn't make sense that all their lives they've only been seeking comforts in terms of material possessions and emotions. Is that all? Have you ever sat down and asked your mother, Mom, is there a dream you haven't been able to achieve? Do you want me to do it for you? And when the two of you talk about that, then we will have a future, and our descendants will have a future. Because our lives shouldn't just be about seeking material and emotional comforts. In this world there are people called great individuals. Great doesn't mean physically large, but people with aspirations. They have great desires. And they achieve that aspiration, or perhaps they only partially achieved it, and they want their children and grandchildren to continue fulfilling that aspiration for them. And if you're a couple, a married couple living together, and you have 1 or 2 children, do you ever sit down together and talk about life? Isn't life more than just having a few kids? Do you have any ambitions? Is there anything you want to do? Do you have any dreams you want to fulfill? Do you have any dreams you want to achieve with your life right now? If a couple doesn't have time to talk about these things, it's a real waste, because there's no reason for our lives to be only about seeking comfort and material things. And when a couple talks about these things, shares about them, they become comrades with each other. And the happiness, the marital happiness, will increase significantly. When we first get married, love is so beautiful, and we think we can't live without each other. But love is also like any living thing. It needs nourishment. Our love, no matter how beautiful it is, if we don't know how to nurture it, it will die. It turns into something else. It turns into boredom. It turns into resentment. It's like a flower. And if we don't nurture it, give it water, the flower turns into a piece of trash. Love is the same. Love that isn't nurtured, in just a few years, it withers away and starts to die. The Buddha taught this. So have you learned how to nurture love? Or live together for a few years, then get bored with each other and look for something new. Then create chaos in the family. Our newborn child, so beautiful and lovely, is also an object of love. But if we don't know how to nurture love, we will hate our child later. We will leave our child. We will feel that if she is not our child. So we need to learn how to nurture the love between us. And we must know how to pass on to our children happiness, wisdom, and our experiences, so that our child will become a continuation of us in terms of physical form and in terms of ideals. We want our children to realize our ideals. We are ordained people. We don't have biological children, but we have spiritual children. And in the life of ordained people, we also have to practice. In Plum Village in France, as well as in other practice centers, such as the Eib in Germany, or Plum Village, Thailand, or Deer Park Monastery, or the Forest Monastery, or the Blue Cliff Monastery, or Magnolia Grove Monastery, there are monks, ordained people, male ordained people, female ordained people, and lay residents. In Plum Village, there are hundreds of monks and nuns and many lay people living together. And we learn how to nurture love for our teacher, who is like our father, for our teaching nun, who is like our mother, and for our brothers and sisters. How do we live so that such a big family, a family of 200, 300 people, can still be happy and life can be beneficial to the world? We organize retreats every year for lay practitioners to come and practice. We have retreats of 6 or 7 days, 21-day retreats and 3-month retreats. And people come, they practice, they transform, they reconcile with each other, and they happily return home. That joy is food. It nourishes our happiness, the ordained ones. At Plum Village, they come from many different countries. There are Indian monks, Thai monks, French monks, German monks. But when we come together and live together in a community like this and share a teacher, we become a family. A family with siblings, brothers and sisters. And every week we have a day called a monastic day. I'm telling you this so that you might wonder if in your own life, as a layperson, you can do something similar. At Plum Village, every week, we have a day dedicated to the monastics. The ordained ones, lay people, don't participate. And in the morning, when we gather, the first thing we do is sit down. We just sit in silence for 45 minutes. We sit and look at each other to see that my elder brother is still there, my elder sister is still there, my younger sibling is still there, my teacher is still there, my nun is still there. Recognizing each other's presence and saying that today we still have the happiness of being together. We just sit quietly. Then we have a Dharma talk about the happiness within ourselves. Because within the community, there are people who are very good at practicing, people who can create joy, who can create happiness for themselves and others. But there are also people who are still weak. Therefore, we have to take care of each other. The strong take care of the weak. There are newly ordained monks and nuns. They still face difficulties. And sometimes their families aren't very peaceful. So we sit and listen. And we find ways to help their families. Suggesting ways to help their families. And sometimes we send people to help. And we take care of each other. Worry about each other. Because if the ordained live together without enough happiness, without enough brotherhood, then it's impossible to serve those outside of the community. If we don't have enough brotherhood, if we don't have enough solidarity, if we don't have enough joy, then what do we have to share with the lay people? So the first thing we worry about is caring for the happiness of the ordained community, having brotherhood and harmony. And you know, it's very difficult for 200 people to live together. But we practice how for 200, 300 people to still have harmony, still have brotherhood, still have happiness. Because if we don't have those things, then organizing retreats for lay people is meaningless. And when there are retreats, the number of lay people who come is very large. Like the summer retreat at Plum Village. Every summer at Plum Village in France, there are about 500 to 5,000 lay people from different countries coming to practice together. And when they come, they see the harmony, the brotherhood between the monks, the nuns with each other, and they have faith in the practice. And every year we hold ordinations. for young people to join the Sangha. Usually, people who want to be ordained have to apply for an apprenticeship. They apprentice for 3 or 6 months, and if it works out, then they stay as a trial beforehand, a 3-month trial, or 6 months before being accepted as a novice. And when they are seen to be ready during their novitiate, and they are happy, then we choose a date for them to be ordained, and usually ordination is done in groups, 15, 25, or 30 people at a time, and the family of those who are ordained grows bigger every day. Currently in North America, we have the Blue Cliff Monastery. We have monks and nuns practicing and living there, and organizing retreats for the northeastern United States. We have the Deer Park Monastery in Southern California, which also has a temple for monks and a temple for nuns. And in that monastery, we also organize retreats and days of mindfulness, like today, for lay practitioners in the United States and Vietnamese people. And now we have Moklan Monastery in Mississippi, and there are also some monks, nuns, and some lay people residing there to practice and to open retreats for the local people. It's the same in France, in Germany, and in Thailand. Saying that doesn't mean we have more free time than you. We have days of being a novice, to look back at our lives, to nurture brotherhood, to create more joy and happiness. And every year we also have a retreat specifically for novices, for ordained people. And every year we have a 3-month winter retreat for 3 months, so that the monks and nuns can delve deeper into learning and the teachings of the Dharma, because we must have a fairly deep understanding to be able to guide the lay people outside. If you visit Plum Village, you will see that the ordained people, also work very hard. We organize very large retreats. Just recently at Brock University here, we organized a retreat for 350 people, Canadians and Americans. And there were about 900 teachers, and we imparted methods to them to help them calm their bodies and minds, cultivate joy, and bring those practices into the classroom to help the students do the same, so that teaching and learning can progress and be more fruitful. And we've organized retreats for educators everywhere, in England and France, as well as in India and Bhutan. We do a lot of work, no less than you out there. But while working, we have brotherhood. We work as a team with harmony, and therefore that comes from practice. It doesn't just happen. So if we are a family with a husband, wife, and 2 children, how can we organize ourselves to have harmony, to have happiness in our family? How can there be communication between husband and wife? If that communication is lost, we must find a way to re-establish communication. We must remember the days when we first came together, how happy we were, how busy we've become, and now that old happiness is gone. Do you ever sit down, now that you have 2 or 3 children, do you ever sit down and reminisce about the early days when you first met? The early days when you wrote letters to each other and you cherished the love between you. We must always remember that. Those are the seeds of happiness. We must always nurture them. And we ask ourselves why we were so happy back then, but not anymore. It's because we don't know how to cultivate ourselves. That's the root of it, not a lack of money. Lacking money and good fortune. Because the monks and nuns don't have much money. The monks and nuns of Plum Village don't get a salary. None of them have bank accounts. None of them own a car. And yet they live together very happily. They have sisterhood and brotherhood. And they have plenty of time to organize retreats for lay people. Transforming suffering, re-establishing communication and reconciliation, and returning to a smile. If we know how, we can do the same in our families. We can do the same if we've been foolish in the past, negligent, and didn't know how to nurture and protect love. Now, with the methods we've learned, we can restore the happiness of the past, the love of the past. We can restore communication, and the two of you can become one, like two comrades. It doesn't make sense for our whole lives to be just about making a living, seeking material comforts, and being so busy that we don't have time to take care of our children. And the children go out into society, go to school, and are exposed to the negativity of modern life and society. Then they come home, and the parents can't communicate with them. All these problems are happening. And if we know the methods of practice, we can resolve them. We say that we're not just talking about these things in theory. We've done these things. We've organized families to practice for monastics. We've guided lay people. And we've helped them transform and restore happiness in their families. And what we're saying comes from experience, not from books. Did you know that in the retreats we organize for people from Europe, America, and Asia, in those retreats there's always the phenomenon of transformation and healing. There are couples, father and son pairs, who have been angry with each other for years, yet after only 5 days of practice, they were able to reconcile with each other and embrace sobbing. If you attend such a retreat, you'll see this. In the first few days, we practice breathing and walking. How so? To let go of the tension in our bodies. We listen to Dharma talks, and those teachings, they nurture the seeds of our past happiness, the seeds of love, gratitude, and joy in our hearts. We practice connecting with the wonders of life, like birds singing, pines whispering, flowers blooming, so we can see that beauty and be nourished. If we're too busy, how can we connect with our breath? Our steps help us let go of the past, let go of the future, and return to the present moment to connect with the wonders of life. Otherwise, it's a waste. So the first few days are for practicing like that. Then we practice returning to ourselves to recognize the pain and suffering we have. And with the energy of mindfulness that we cultivate through our breath and steps, we can recognize our pain and suffering, embracing it like a mother embracing a crying child. And because of that, we can calm and soothe our pain and suffering. We understand our pain and suffering, and we see clearly that we are largely responsible in creating that suffering and pain. If we don't practice, we might say that our suffering and pain is caused by the other person. We blame that person. But in reality, if we know how to turn inward, we'll clearly see that we also bear a significant responsibility for our own suffering and pain, and for the other person's suffering and pain. We often think that that person isn't suffering, they're just making us suffer. That's not right. If you look closely, you'll see that inside that person, their suffering and pain they haven't learned to deal with, and are transformed through practice. They don't know how to handle their own suffering and pain. And because they suffer so much, they spill that suffering onto us. Sometimes they don't want to make us suffer, but they have so much suffering and don't know how to handle it. So when they speak or act, it causes us pain. Then we conclude that they don't suffer, that they only cause us pain, which isn't true. If that person, in their words and actions, has caused us wounds, then we, in our words and actions, have also caused them wounds. We're not without responsibility. Both sides share the responsibility. And we must sit down together and say, we haven't been skillful, we've been foolish, we haven't known how to practice. We've caused each other suffering and pain. Now, let's unite to transform this situation. That's something that's possible. And many couples have done just that. One day, a female journalist from the Elle newspaper in Paris came to interview the nuns. The Elle newspaper is a French women's magazine for women. So the nuns in New Hamlet invited that woman to stay for 7 days to experience the practice. Because if she just interviews them, the article won't be good. You only know after you practice it. She was there for about 6 days when I came to visit to lecture the nuns. She took that opportunity to interview me. I said, it's funny. Your newspaper is a newspaper for women. Why interview a man? But in the end, I let them interview me, and I said this. I said, write an article, a report. It's only good if you help people transform. Writing about theory isn't very good. So I'll suggest a practice method for you. If you can write about this practice method, you can help many unhappy couples who are not happy. So I suggested this afternoon. After you finish dinner and cleaning up, go to the living room with him. Of course, after dinner, he goes to the living room and turns on the TV. After you've finished cleaning up, follow him in to the living room while washing dishes, while cleaning up in the kitchen. You must practice breathing. Breathing in, the mind is still. Breathing out, a smile and calm down your suffering and pain until you go into the living room. Sit down and continue breathing. Breathe until you feel comfortable. Calm down, then look up. Say this to him. Honey, can you turn off the TV? I have something important to discuss with you. Say something like that. He'll be surprised. He'll also be a little annoyed, wondering what's about to happen. He's also dreading it. But he's forced to do it. He'll press a button and turn off the TV, then turn around, ready to confront. Then with a smile say, honey, why do we have everything? We have a house and a car, we have jobs, we have savings, we have everything. But why aren't we happy? What do you think is the reason? Do you have any thoughts? So we invite the person who can bring happiness into our lives to a Dharma talk, to find out the truth of why we have so many conditions for happiness. Many people aren't as fortunate as we are. They can't find a house like ours. They don't have a car like ours. They don't have a job like we do. We have everything, so why aren't we happy? We have time. The two of us have time to examine, to look closely and re-evaluate our situation, why we have all the means, but we're not happy. Or are we? The truth is, when you turn on the TV and watch it, the show might be terrible, but you still watch it anyway. Because if you turn off the TV, what else would you do? Talking to your wife isn't making you happy anymore. In the old days, just looking at each other was enough to be happy. Now, looking at each other doesn't bring happiness anymore. I just want to hate your face. Back then, you said, "How could I survive without you?" Now, it's a little hard to live with you. So, watching TV isn't because we love TV, but because we want to use it as something to fill the emptiness, the suffering and pain inside us. It's the same for you. You read novels, you listen to music, or you go on the internet. It's not because you like those things, but because you also have your own suffering, your own pain. That emptiness and loneliness, you seek to fill it. So, both of you are doing the exact same thing, because we didn't know how to nurture and nourish love. We let love die. We've been clumsy in our actions. Have you read The Little Prince in that book? In another of his works, he titled This Human Realm, he wrote, if we love each other, isn't just about sitting there, looking at each other, but looking together in the same direction. That's great, meaning when we're lovers, we must share a common ideal. That's the idea. I think that we can very well sit and look at each other. First, we look at each other and we see each other's beauty. If they weren't beautiful, why would we marry them? You're my prince and I'm your princess. So beautiful. So when in love, we have the right to sit there and look at each other, right? So that we can confirm, so we can appreciate the beauty of our lover. But at the same time, when we look at each other, we also see each other's suffering and pain, because we all have suffering and pain. Maybe that suffering and pain has been passed down by our parents or grandparents. And often we're too busy to have time to listen to our own suffering and pain and to understand it. And when we see the other person's suffering and pain, then naturally our love, our compassion arises. This is what I learned in Plum Village. Once you come into contact with suffering and pain, then naturally compassion, the energy of compassion arises. And the energy of compassion has the ability to heal and nurture. So when we look at our lover, it's not just that we see their beauty, their goodness, we also see their difficulties, the suffering and pain of our lover. And we want to say something or do something to alleviate our lover's suffering. That's called by compassion. Loving kindness means offering joy, while Biai's compassion means alleviating suffering. T is Maitri. And Biai is Corona in true love. And B. T is offering happiness, and Biai is alleviating suffering. So when you look at your partner, you acknowledge their precious presence. That means you're offering them joy to that person. And when you see the suffering, the pain of your partner, and you know what to say or what to do to ease it, that reduction of suffering and pain is called Bear. In Buddhism, the teachings on love are very profound and clear. The first two elements are and by. So when we look at each other, we not only see each other's positive aspects, but we can also see each other's negative aspects, each other's suffering and pain. And when we understand that suffering and pain, we love them even more. and we want to do something to alleviate our partner's suffering. But if we don't look at each other, we can't see each other. We don't understand. And if we don't understand, we can't love. In Buddhism, we are taught very clearly that love is made of understanding. If you don't understand, you can't love. If a father doesn't understand his child, he can't love his child. He must understand. He must see the child's difficulties and suffering to be able to love them. Otherwise, he'll just scold and punish them. And the same goes for the child. If a child wants to love their father, they must see the difficulties, the frustrations, the suffering and pain of their father. Then they can love their father. So it's very clear that love is made of understanding. And if you don't understand the other person, don't understand their suffering and pain, they're difficult, say, I love you, or I love you. You can't love if you don't understand. So you can ask the other person this, hey, do you think I understand you yet? If I don't, please help me understand. Tell me about your sorrows and pains. That's cultivation. We love our children, so we must understand their sorrows, their pains. If we keep scolding and punishing them, that's not love. We love our spouse. Then we must listen. We must understand their sorrows and pains, their difficulties, and always ask, because maybe we don't understand even our own sorrows and pains. If we don't understand our own, how can we understand the sorrows and pains of others? So there must be communication. There must be honest exchange. So understanding can exist. When understanding exists, love can exist. That's why when you're in love, looking at each other is good, right? Looking in the same direction means you're of one mind and heart. Husband and wife in harmony can drain the eastern sea. That's looking in one direction. But in this case, she and he are looking in the same direction, but it's at the TV, looking in one direction to ease the pain. Because we can't look at each other, so we must agree to look at the TV to lessen the pain. That's a tragedy. We're no longer happy looking at each other. So we must look together at the TV to lessen the pain. So she turns to him. She asks, honey, can you turn off the TV? I have something important to ask you. He turns off the TV and turns around. And she starts to ask that question. Honey, do you know why we have everything we need? We have a house, we have a car, we have jobs, we have everything we need, so why aren't we happy? And if the two of you sit down and really look at it, you'll find the reason. It's because we didn't know how to nurture our love. We caused each other suffering and pain. Because we didn't understand each other's suffering and pain. And when a husband and wife can't love each other and can't understand each other, how can they teach their children? There's a gap between two generations, especially when we move to live in a foreign country. The culture is different. And our children go into a Western society. They learn the habits of Westerners in the local way of life. There are good things, but there are also bad things. And we belong to a different culture. And our children belong to a different culture. And so communication between parents and children becomes very difficult. Do grandparents have time to sit and play with their children? And as young people, do we ever ask our fathers, Dad, What did you play when you were little? Tell me about it. What were your games like back then? Then we tell our children about the games we used to play. What games did we play? Now they play very different games. We used to play very different games. When a father and child discuss and tell each other about the games of 2 generations, it's very beautiful. Then the father can pass on to his children the games that are very simple but bring a lot of joy. Mothers too, they used to have very simple and happy games. Mothers didn't play electronic games like you do. When a mother and child discuss and exchange like that, it's very good. Then gradually the gap between the 2 cultures will shrink. So, Mom, can I ask you something now? How do you guys spend your time at school? How do you play? What do you like? What don't you like? And if parents don't have time to sit with their sons or daughters to talk to them, to understand their difficulties, their suffering, their pain, how can there be communication between parents and children? Don't think that just because they're young, they don't have problems. Young people today have a lot of problems. They have a lot of suffering and pain. Therefore, communication between parents and communication between parents and children is very important. If you're too busy only worrying about material comforts, then you won't be able to do that. Our happiness doesn't come solely from material things. In Plum Village, we live very simply. No one has a salary, no one has their own house or their own car. Everything is shared. So compared to the lives of lay people, we consume very little. We're vegetarian and we grow some of our own vegetables. However, we have time to sit with each other, time to talk to each other, time to complain to each other, time to talk to each other about our suffering, our pain. And we consider communication to be very important. And we know that if we're not happy, if we don't have unity, if we don't have brotherhood, then we shouldn't be opening retreats. Because if we're not happy, how can we open a retreat for others? How can they be happy? And so I think we need to rearrange our way of life. If necessary, we should work less. We don't need to be so focused on money. True happiness comes from living simply. Living simply is something we've achieved. Living simply like this brings great happiness. Especially when we see people come to practice and learn, transform themselves. When people reconcile with each other, it makes us very happy. It gives our lives meaning. I hope that you will rearrange your way of living and that you and your spouse can sit down and discuss things beyond conveniences, material possessions, and ordinary emotions. Honey, what dreams did you have when you were young? Tell me about them. Can we work on them together? Can we make them happen? Or should we ask our children to do it for us? If we take the time to discuss these so-called automatic concerns, that would be wonderful. And children, you should take the time to ask your parents, Mom and Dad, what dreams do you have that you haven't been able to fulfill? Do you want us to fulfill your dreams for you? That's a beautiful thing. So this summer, at this year's summer retreat, there was a meditator from Hattin. She had heard me lecture for the first time at the Media Hotel in Hanoi. And she came to the summer retreat. After listening to me talk about this topic, she asked, "Master, do you have any dreams that you haven't been able to fulfill? We will fulfill them for you." She wanted to apply it immediately. The teaching she had just learned. I replied, thank you, my dear. I am fortunate. I have never lost touch with youth. Although I haven't used a phone in 35 years, that's right, I haven't used a phone in 35 years, yet my connection with the younger generation has never been broken. I have many young disciples. Ages 10, 20, 35, 22, 5, 30, very young. Don't think you need a phone or an email to connect. You don't. You need the ability to listen, the ability to understand. Then naturally there's a connection. I can hang out with young people. I can hang out with kids and young people. And those four people hanging out, it nurtures me and the young people. The key is practicing listening, seeing the suffering and pain of others. Even if that person is very young. I answered that young woman from Hattin, saying I'm lucky. I've never lost touch with young people. And I'm doubly lucky because I'm living my dream every day. My dream is very simple. When I was 9 years old, the first time I saw the image of the Buddha sitting on a lawn on the cover of a Buddhist magazine. The Buddha was sitting on the grass, very relaxed, very peaceful. And that image inspired me. Suddenly, the little boy thought, how can I be like this man, sitting so relaxed and peaceful? And the desire to become a monk like that began in that boy. Growing up, I read history. I saw that the Lai and Tran dynasties were times when those dynasties, when our country was very happy. The kings all knew how to practice. The Lai and Tran kings were very good at practicing. And the envoy Hong Xuan Han said that the Lai dynasty and the Tran dynasty were very pure and the most peaceful in Vietnamese history. The king and his people loved each other, and the country was united. Let's remember the time when King Tran Nan Han Tong abdicated the throne to his son, Tran An Tong. He was king, and then he became a monk on Yen Tu Mountain. At that time, Buddhism in Vietnam was very prosperous. A father as king became a monk practicing in the mountains. He took care of the spiritual aspect of the country, while the son, as king, sat on the throne to take care of the political aspects. Morality and politics went hand in hand. At that time, the country was very strong. At that time, we had just defeated the invasion of the North. So my dream is how to cultivate, to help renew Buddhism, because Buddhism at that time was old and outdated. It had a lot of superstitions. So my dream is how to create a very new Buddhism that is suitable for young people and intellectuals. And it has been forged through the Vietnam War. Because right now we have a Buddhism, a method of practice that is very suitable for young people. We bring it out to teach and apply it. In Europe and America, young people and intellectuals study it in large numbers and bring it back to Asia, Thailand, Japan, Korea, Vietnam. Then young people and intellectuals also study it in large numbers. So the dream has been successful. It has been achieved. And I see that every day I get to do the things that I like to do. Then I don't have any more dreams, because every day I see my dream is coming true. And if you want, then you can continue my aspirations. That is, nurture that aspiration. Bring this new Buddhism out to help transform society, both domestically and internationally. In short, don't be too busy with worries and inconveniences, seeking material comforts. We must change our way of life. We can consume less. But we can take more time to take care of each other, to establish communication with each other, to reconcile with each other, and to take care of the grandchildren. Only then will happiness be real. And only then can we pass on the good things we have to our children and grandchildren. Because as I see it, if we have compassion, if we have happiness, if we have liberation, if we have peace, then we pass those things on to the next generation. That's the most precious thing. That's achieving the greatest dream of our lives. And I see that plants do the same thing. Animals do the same thing. Each generation of animals and plants all have experiences, and they pass on those experiences through their genes to the next generations. So we, as human beings, are the same. Thanks to our practice and learning, thanks to our experiences, we cultivate more love. We cultivate more understanding. We cultivate more happiness, joy, and peace. And those are very precious things. And we can pass them on to our children and grandchildren, so they can pass them on to their children and grandchildren. Pass it on to them. Material wealth isn't that important. And when we can pass on to our children and grandchildren a beautiful way of life that includes happiness, compassion, understanding, and love, then that is the most precious thing. Right now, let's take about 10 minutes to answer a few questions. If you have any, Venerable Teacher can help that person. And if that person loses their peace, they won't live long. There are two problems. First, they're caught up in gambling. And second, they have an incurable disease. I think passion or gambling is because that person hasn't found anything more enjoyable than gambling. But there are actually many things more fun than gambling. If we can find that joy and introduce it to that person, and if that person discovers and finds joy in this, they might be able to quit gambling because they haven't found anything more fun, you see. Secondly, a terminal illness, being close to death, is also a good opportunity to realize that life is impermanent, to see that we need to live in a certain way with the days we have left, so we don't waste those days. Once upon a time in Canada, there was this guy. In Mongolia, there was this guy. The doctor said he only had 3 months to live. Hello, Vietnamese people. So that day I went to Canada to open an auto shop, and they brought him to introduce to me, and he was sitting on my right. So during that conversation, they introduced him, saying that this guy only had 3 months to live. The doctor said he only had 3 months left. So I said, 3 months is a lot. Are you able to drink a cup of tea with me, drinking it with happiness? If you keep worrying about dying in 3 months, will you be able to drink this cup of tea in a way that you're clearly aware that you're sitting with your friends, you're sitting with your teacher in this moment? Lifting the tea and drinking it is a miraculous phenomenon. That's a challenge to silence. He said, I will drink a cup of tea for you to see. I will drink it in a way that makes me happy. Right now, in this moment, for you to see. And that was his first practice. And after that, he was praised for being able to drink a cup of tea, even knowing that he would die in 3 months. And the next day, he attended a 6-day retreat. And I learned so much. The method to live happily in the present moment, without worrying about the future, without regretting the past. And ultimately, I lived another 15 years. So the method of the order is very good. Bringing the mind back to the body, establishing the mind and body in the present moment, contacting the wonders of life in the present moment, living that moment deeply, releasing all worries and sorrows, then naturally it lightens. And maybe the illness that's there, it will leave you. Who knows? And this has happened many times. And many people come with that state of mind, with that condition, and have practiced and have transformed in that way. Yes, teacher, is there an essay? The sisters always love each other, but they don't know it pays. When will it? That's not too difficult. If you want to, you can do it. The way is to sit down, breathe, and then find a way to see the difficulties, the suffering and pain of that person. The reason that person acts that way is because they can't act any other way, because there's too much suffering and pain. And the secret is to see the suffering and pain of that person and understand that suffering and pain. So that compassion, the compassionate heart arises in your heart. This is a very clear principle. If you see and understand the suffering and pain, then naturally compassion arises. And once compassion arises, you naturally stop suffering immediately. It's strange, but it's always like that. No more blaming, or do to ease their suffering, or do to ease their suffering. So if you sit down and you see the other person's pain and suffering, and if compassion arises in your heart, and it eases your suffering, then sit down and write a poem. Say, don't worry, I don't need anything. I just want to give you all a chance every day to escape from difficult circumstances, those frustrations. And when you write a letter filled with such compassion, the other person will feel much better reading it. Many people have done this. The secret is that we haven't seen their pain and suffering. Haven't seen their pain and suffering. Therefore, compassion hasn't arisen in our hearts. We know that whenever compassionate energy arises, we naturally suffer less and become less angry. Anger disappears immediately. It's very clear. In my life too, there have been many people who were very cruel and ruthless to me, causing me a lot of pain. But thanks to that practice, I don't get angry at anyone. I'm not angry at anyone. I have no enemies. I have no more enemies. That's thanks to compassion. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon we will have a time for Q&A, and the teachers and instructors will continue this activity. So now it's time for our meal. Let's have a bell to mark the occasion.